get it.
Mbijan raganyadi.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la sto.
Ha, code nyinji.
Okay. Korsa. Nsila ID soto.
Ah, sa soto. Sorry. I get it.
Mbijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariaka. Mbare ki janna nun kunu bara tariaka.
Jannom yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbari ya bere. Birim koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato ni fo bolong labe.
56 branches mola sota Gambia jam.
Ha?
Gambia kono ani Gambia bantala bankol. Nko kodo kiya bere. Kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta même na kodi to poto ni kodi maraw. Jannom number 1 di nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale de dadi mani domorol dil fana beteat. Gambia dawda yalo ngam fa kendol sotale je.
Wo moy o diat ha.
Apelenta
baraka ni na lafta nyelen kendol e binaji.
Yalo bu kanyi la ko la baraka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Abaraka.
Him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes.
But don't you know about Baluwo?
Baluwo? What is Baluwo?
Baluwo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Tell me how Baluwo works.
It's very simple.
Just log on to baluwo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baluwo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria or Mali. Baluwo, better than sending money.
For the first time in the history of the Gambia, Gambia Printing Publishing Corporation proudly introduces the Biliomatic exercise book printing machine. The machine has the capacity to print more than 20,000 books per hour. Yes, 20,000 books per hour. It also prints magazines, newspapers, calendars, flyers, normal books and all kinds of printed documents plus items at affordable prices. With the Biliomatic printing machine, GPPC can now render high-quality and non-size restricted printing service supply across the sub-region. Rush now and partner with GPPC for all your public and private printing service needs. Print with us today and you'd be offered highly professional, reliable and efficient service delivery by our team of experts. The Gambia Printing and Publishing Corporation is here to meet all demands and is reliable at all times. For more info, contact us on 437-4493 or 437-4402. GPPC is Gambian and it's yours.
Gambia Social Registry Household Data Collection Exercise. The government of the Gambia, with support from World Bank, is developing a social registry as part of its move towards an integrated social protection system in the country. Gambia Social Registry will serve as a single entry point for the various social protection programs in the Gambia and will be hosted by the National Social Protection Secretariat at the Office of the Vice President. The social registry shall comprise households' demographic and socio-economic data. This information will guide future social protection program interventions in the Gambia and facilitate rapid identification of beneficiaries for programs. It will have the capability to be linked to other databases when these databases become automated. The enumeration teams from Gambia Bureau of Statistics, GBOS, will visit, interview and register every household in your community, so don't be left out. However, inclusion in the registry does not automatically qualify one for a particular social program. Social Registry has taken consideration of the key principles for personal data protection. Therefore, your data shall be confidential and protected. In view of this, we call on all and sundry to register their households with enumerators from GBOS. This message is brought to you by the Department of Information Services under the Ministry of Information.
and welcome to the brunch on Kerr Fatou Live. I am Lamin Cham. This is our weekly look at current affairs over the last 7 days. Today I have in the studio the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, Emmanuel Joof, Esquire, should I say?
That's fine.
And to my far right is a lawyer, barrister at law in Gambia, Abdoulaye Fatou. Welcome, gentlemen. Now, today we want to deal with matters that's mostly legal, but of course also that touches on human rights affairs. So I have in the studio Mr. Joof to talk through to us about the current activities or latest activities of the overall mandate of the NHSR, and then that will lead us to events or incidents, or perhaps where the Commission had to make statements and commentaries in the recent past. So, Mr. Joof, let me take you back. Often people wonder, what is in fact the mandate of the National Human Rights Commission? Why are you all the time having something to say about one thing or the other?
Thank you very much, Mr. Cham.
Yeah.
If you remember, just to give context, the National Human Rights Commission was set up by an act of the National Assembly in 2017, got the presidential assent in January of 2018, and we became operational in 2019. We started work February 2019. We came about as part of the government's transitional justice packages.
Okay.
If you remember, you know where Gambia came from.
Exactly.
I think we are all aware, we all know what the story is.
Yeah.
But the government, to move on, this was the TJ process, where you had the TRRC, which was concluded.
Exactly.
There was a Constitutional Review Commission.
Yeah.
They started the civil service reform, security sector reform. But to make sure, you see, the NHRC was set up. When you talk about transitional justice, there are 4 pillars.
Okay.
One is Truth Commission, which in the process you have what they call justice and accountability.
Exactly.
That's why we're talking about now prosecuting those who bear the greatest responsibility. Then you have what is called reparation for those victims and their families. Yeah. And the third one is we are talking about the never again. You cannot have a never again if you do not have institutions, institutional reform, and also institutions that are put in place to make sure that where we were, we will not go back to. So this is how we were set up. We were therefore set up, given a very strong mandate to promote and protect human rights. We are a state institution which was set up, but national human rights institutions are also set up under what is called the UN Paris Principles. So we are set up under certain guidelines. State institution, but has to follow the UN Paris Principles, promoting, protecting human rights, receiving complaints, monitoring human rights matters. That's why we talk.
Yeah.
We monitor and talk.
Right.
We investigate. That's why we also investigate and we talk. Yeah. We also make recommendations to the government. We also have powers. When we do our sittings, we have the powers of a high court. We can actually invoke all those powers and sit as a tribunal. We have quasi-judicial powers. But also, we have been given powers, advisory role to the government. We also we come up with publications. That's why you see just not long ago, we had advisory notes on the right to food, because we advise the government so that they will take up certain policies which are human rights friendly. And we report to the National Assembly. That is actually, people say we have a line ministry, but no, we are answerable to the National Assembly. So every year, we go back to the National Assembly and give them a report. State of human rights. This will be what complaints have we received? How did we deal with those complaints? What were the recommendations? Did the government abide by those recommendations? What laws do we need to review? These are things that we do, and also the activities that we carried out during that process. So we do a lot of advisory to the government. That's why we come up with, we have, you saw it in the caste system. Yeah. We scan the environment, and there is a problem. So what did we do? We set up a multitask committee to tackle, because when you talk about caste, you're talking about discrimination.
I'm just trying to give you context why you will see us everywhere, because we have been given the mandate to promote and protect human rights and to bring back a culture of human rights and rule of law to this country. So if the IGP is not doing things according to the rule of law, we will call him out.
Okay.
In fact, we do a lot of work underneath than
outside.
Yes, because sometimes you hear people saying, "What is the Human Rights Commission doing?" You will be very surprised that we would have done many things. But because we are a state institution, sometimes we engage. Sometimes we come up with a press release. But you see, I remember one time people say, they are writing too much press release. Stop it. When we don't write press release, they have not been writing anything. But that's fine. That is fine, because we are a public institution and the public will demand from us certain things. So we understand. So so anything that is to do with human rights falls within our mandate. So we have been giving these powers and this right. So whether it's the leader of the opposition, whether it's the president of the country, we will flag and say, hey, these are the rules. And just quickly to come, so what human rights are we talking about? Because usually in this country, because of the Eurocentric, the former head of state, Jammeh, whenever you mention human rights, this was what he did. He said, don't mind them. These are Eurocentric, LGBTQ,
Western
homosexual, gay. No. The human rights we're talking about is the rights that are in our constitution, chapter 4, fundamental rights and freedom, and specific legislation, children's rights, women's rights. That's why we talked about the FGM, because we have, these are the laws. But not only that, Mr. Cham, Gambia is not an isolated country. We ratify provisions, conventions, we ratify treaties. And when we ratify these instruments, we are telling the international community that we are going to be bound by them. And being bound by them means that the Gambia has to do certain things. So I hope I give context. But we are not like civil society, like here, my friend. You will not see us demonstrating. We don't do that. We are a bridge between the greater population and the government as well. So that is why our mandate is very unique. It is new though, so we also understand that we have to keep on telling people what we are. We are an oversight institution. And Mr. Cham, if you are an oversight institution, you will irritate people. You will irritate people who are in the executive. You will irritate sometimes even the opposition. There was a period I was on Coffee Time. I remember Peter Gomen saying that there is nothing that the main opposition leader, Usainu Dabo, and Barrow, they don't agree. But there is only one thing that they've agreed, is that there is a National Human Rights Commission that is working. Yes. So, but sometimes both of them are also not happy. If you even look at our press release.
Well, I'm coming there.
Okay. We don't want to. But I need to put things in context. Because whenever we talk, you have, whether it's religious leaders, or why are these people talking? We have been paid to do exactly, and we will do that. We will continue to do that.
Now, I want to come straight to the point. One of the recent issues that, like you said, you might find yourself sometimes at the, under crossfire from different either religious or points of opinion who might not agree with you. Not long ago, the question of FGM came about, and in fact, it is at a point where people are beginning to express concern. Even the United Nations express concern that the gains that have been made, example, the law that was enacted in 2015, which outlawed the practice, is now under threat. Parliamentarians from across the political divide, can you imagine? Powerful advocates and lobbyists from religious quarters are all calling for its for the law to go. People like your office and others are concerned that if that happened, the country's obligations, will definitely, there'll be a lot of, what would I say, a giant shift backwards towards what have been achieved. How did you manage this? Because it's a sensitive issue, even if I find politicians who are even afraid of weighing into it. For example, the government hadn't said much. The Attorney General, Ministry of Justice have not said.
Minister of Gender?
Gender, they haven't said anything. So because it is sensitive, they are all trying to avoid it. But then they are suddenly going to a point where there has to be a decision, because the parliamentarians are pushing for the law to be, to be abolished. And there and then the government will have to compensate that.
Yeah.
So what is your position on that, your office position?
Our position was very clear. If you read the press release that came out quickly, we didn't sit on the fence.
Yeah.
We spoke as the law is.
Yeah.
We have, yes, you are right. There is sensitivities concerning FGM, and it is not new because the struggle from the women's group, Gamco Trap, has been going on for many, many, many years. We're talking about almost 2 decades.
Exactly.
But then we had the Women's Act of 2010. And then finally, we also had the Women Amendment Act of 2015, which criminalizes the FGM, female genital mutilation or cutting. But not only that, the Gambia itself has ratified treaties and convention which actually obligates the states to make laws forbidding FGM. And if you look at the history which led to Gambia having the law, it's to do with studies that were done, health, the rights of the child, and the harmful effects, the health hazards of FGM. These are documented. It is there. It's and we are not only talking about studies by WHO. There is a whole study by some Gambian doctors mapping out certain health centers. And what they found out about the harmful effects of FGM from fistula, from serious bleeding, among many other things that are there. Of course, you have the religious debate. If you look at the religious debate, some are saying it's sunnah, some are saying it should not be practiced, it's Islamic, un-Islamic. So the jurisprudence there is there. But I remember the Gambia, when we were being reviewed under the CEDAW in Geneva, the same question came from the committee of experts. In fact, one of them, committee of experts, who was asking questions to our minister of gender, Fatou Kinte, asked her, listen, you have this in your laws, you have very low prosecution rate. How come? And we know also that the prevalent rate is high. What are you doing? And it was interesting that this was a medical doctor, female from Saudi Arabia. He said it is not a religious dictate, because even our country, which is the most conservative country in Islam, we don't do it. So, but let us move back. The studies have shown that FGM has harmful health effect. But not only that, it's also performed on people, children, who do not have a choice. And I say, let me just quickly get, Mr. Fatou studied in UK, maybe he will remember.
Yeah, he will come.
There was a particular case when it came to blood transfusion. It's a very popular case in UK. The Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't believe in blood transfusion because they go to a passage in the Bible. You see, this is the interesting thing about religious people. There is always somebody who will take a passage and then say, so this particular child needed blood life-saving. The family said, no, we are not. The court, is now a court, said no. When it comes to children, the state will look at the paramount interest of the child. This child, we will take and make this child a ward of court. So again, the issue of performing these things on children who don't have a say. And tomorrow, some of them are saying that if we had the choice, this will not be done on us. But anyway, fast forward. It is a law.
That's right. That's where
this is the issue. You cannot have religious leaders, parliamentarians, or others coming up and say, break the law. Our institution will have to flag that and say, listen, the whole essence of rule of law is that people must follow the law. So number one, that was also our issue. But not only that, listen, why did we have this law? Look at the progress that we have made. A particular MP, we remember, talked about culture. You see, we have to be very careful. Cultural practices, religious practices, yes, our constitution talks about recognition of them. But there is also what is the national laws. And if each of us ascribe or arrogate certain rights and said, according to my serial culture, I should not send my girl child to school. No, but the law says that what? For example, it says basic education shall be
compulsory
and it's free.
No, free.
Just
free.
The point I'm trying to make that if a culture is repugnant, so let us be careful. We have cultures, we have religious. Rastafarians can decide to come and say, listen, we should just smoke our weed for 24 hours a day and not work 2-3 times a week. I'm just using that as an example. But That is why you have the state. There cannot be vacuum. And we cannot have every Tom, Nick, and Harry, Ablai, Emmanuel, and Lamin ascribing certain things and said, we have a right. So we have to be very careful.
So in other words,
you cannot have the state being quiet.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
You cannot abdicate that role. You cannot. That's why we have the laws. That's why we have the state. So this happened also when it came to caste system. Discrimination.
Yeah.
Again, quiet. The law is very clear on discrimination.
So
we took up the mantle, but that's why we are here.
Yeah.
And we will talk, whether people like it or not. This is the mandate that has been granted to this commission to make sure we bring back a culture of human rights and rule of law.
Good. Let me bring in Mr. Fatou here. Mr. Fatou, to begin with, before we go into order, this FGM issue has been raging, and now it has come to a... but conspicuously, we have seen the absence of government, because it's a sensitive matter. From day one, from the time of Sadao the Jawaran, you hardly see government weighing into it until it became now law in 2015 on the Jammeh. In fact, some people are saying that that very enactment of the law might have caused Jammeh votes among the conservatively traditional folks who think that the practice should be allowed on or should be voluntary. When the debate started, what has been your position?
For me, if I'm going to be really honest, it's a very sensitive issue. But the practice has been criminalized. So because you hear certain people saying what is practiced in the Gambia is female circumcision rather than mutilation. The technicalities are not really, but the fact is there is a legislation prohibiting a certain practice.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you now have some MPs, some lawmakers who want to repeal that specific statute or legislation.
Yes. Good.
Obviously, like Mr. Joof said, Gambia signed the
CEDAW and other
and also CRC
Maputo
Convention
and
Maputo Protocol.
And the Maputo Protocol.
CRC Convention on the Rights of the Child. These are international instruments that the Gambia have ratified. Hence, the Children's Act 2005, which focuses on the welfare of the child. But in relation to the recent debate, certain parts of government and politicians have been quiet because, like this issue, like in other countries as well, sometimes politicians want to shy away from controversial issues
and sensitive
because you think that cost you votes during polling times. But for me, what I would perhaps want to see is perhaps for the advocates, civil society advocates who want to ensure that the legislation banning this practice remains intact. I think there is also something in the international human rights discourse called framing, how you frame an issue. See, for example, how you articulate your point, especially when it's about dialogue, is very, very important as well, because sometimes it can either antagonize, and the natural position will be people repel, or creates further division and tension. So for me, at the grassroots level, if Islamic scholars, I think what is perhaps not in dispute, some people are saying it is mandatory, but it looks like the overwhelming jurisprudence suggests that it is discretionary.
Yeah.
I am not an Islamic scholar, but some of them are saying there are some that are discretionary, but with an enhanced status. It is highly recommended. But there are others who are saying that is not the case. That even in Saudi Arabia and other countries are not practicing this. But where there is medical scientific evidence that the practice is harmful to children. For me personally, even when I was in high school, I remember I come from a culture where my sisters, 3 of my sisters are Fula, are Jalo, only one is Fati.
Yeah.
But I come from, my mom is Fula, so I come from Mandinka and Fula culture. Both cultures practice this. So I remember I grew up in a community where almost everybody went through this practice, you know. But I remember even at that time, when I was a teenager in the 90s, I remember saying there was just something about the practice that I didn't like. So me at a personal level, I remember having these thoughts that I wouldn't subject my children through this practice. Not aware of any harmful effects or any implications, but just that for me that there's just something about this that is not so appealing, and therefore I wouldn't want to subject it. But that is my position. But at the same time, I am also a little bit concerned with the language in certain corners used in the advocacy, because sometimes it is very important that we use language. So let's say that's what I refer to framing. Framing essentially saying that so for example, instead of imposing, what about you use dialogue? Over mean. So for example, if in Badibu or Kiang or Jara, this thing is so entrenched and is seen as a way of life. So in some of those communities, it's not even as seen probably as a religious issue. It's seen as a cultural issue. It's so entrenched, and you'll be surprised in those communities. It's probably women. Men don't care much about this issue in some of those communities. It's actually the women who are the fervent supporters of the continuation of this practice.
Exactly.
Because we know, I come from a culture where women insulted each other.
Yeah.
People who didn't go through this practice.
Yeah,
so for me, for example, if you have to go to those people to sensitize them, it has to be both carrot and stick.
So don't you think it should have been left as it was under the Jawara regime? There wasn't any law, outlawing it. People who really were born with practice, just do it. Those who were born without it, just continue not doing it.
But that would be signed away from responsibility. Remember, as a state, we signed and ratified international instruments.
Yes.
So we are bound, we have obligations under those instruments. So you cannot also...
But at this stage now, if you just agree, we all agree that the state, the politicians, I mean, because they are the people managing the state, are shy or, too... sensitive. They feel the matter is too sensitive for them to associate themselves.
Is it shyness or abdicating?
Okay, now that's going to be abdicating. But what we are trying to see now, what should be the role of the Ministry of Justice on this? Now the law is under threat in the Gambia. We all know that. Because parliamentarians from both sides of the political divide seem to be agree that it should go. What should be the role of the government? They should listen to the legislature.
The role of the government here is to so who got the law? The law came from government.
Yeah, the
government cannot undermine its own law. So they either repeal it, which I wouldn't support, or
so what should be the responsibility of the Attorney General for it? Should he go to Parliament and say, look, you can't. I'm
sure there will be debates, and I'm sure the Attorney General will have to appear before them at some point. At what
point? This point, or when it is too late?
Well, that's entirely up to the Aegis chambers.
Yeah.
But not only the Aegis, the executive in general. Because this is the executive in general. Because you now have we have the separation of powers, but you have the body, the vested power to make laws are now threatening, or some sections are threatening to repeal a law.
Yeah.
A law that certain medical practitioners or advocates against the practice are saying is harmful to children.
Yeah.
So if a government supports that position of some MPs and say we agree and we're going to repeal this, which I disagree with, or to go back and say you have a legal, political, and moral duty and mandate at the lawmakers to ensure that the welfare of children under the Maputo Protocol, CEDAW, and CRC, the Children's and the Women's Act are not diminished.
So the government will be in a dilemma, all right? Here are the majority of the people. Well, they will claim that the majority of the Gambians, including our own lawmakers, are now asking for the law to go. I, as a government, has a responsibility to protect the interests of children, the women, Understand? And honor international obligations that are protecting the
and
welfare.
domestic
And international obligations for me to protect this. So what will the government do in this case? What do you expect them to do? Mr. Joof, from the human rights point of view, said government should not be absent. They should not abdicate their responsibility. Their role should be, no, we cannot do away with this.
But let us broaden this a bit.
Yeah, okay.
We also have laws relating to early child marriage.
Yes.
I have actually started hearing audios.
Yeah.
People are saying that certain cultural practices and even religious should allow girls to be married off as early as 13, 14. Well, you see, you are saying what? Now, is the government also going to say it's a sensitive issue? You see, you have to take the bull by its horn.
Yes.
No, absolute. But that was why I told you, you cannot arrogate. You cannot allow every sections of cultures or people with religious leanings. That's why we have the state.
Exactly.
That's why, and of course it's true, the state will release it. But sometimes the state will have to take a position.
That's what I'm saying.
The state will not, but let me explain to you. For example, and this has happened in many countries when it comes to either religion or cultural practices. I've made mention of the Efik tribe of Nigeria, where they used to kill twins. Because it was a bad omen, yes. But
they used to send them to the bush, the evil forest.
Well, now we are laughing at it. But this is what history is. Even racism. White, black people have 1/3 of the, but because this is cultural things that we have, that is why you have the state. The state and cultural practices, religious, if there is proven that they are regressive, that they are repugnant, that is why you have the state. That's very important. That was why we said this, and this issue of FGM has always been sensitive. He has mentioned it. You're even finding some people who will say, I'll not allow my children to do it because they're harmful, but I will not criticize it because they also feel that those who don't practice it are looking at them as inferior.
As inferior.
That is also the sensitivity because I've seen where some group are saying, who do they think? Because we are circumcised, are we less
human?
Exactly. So you have all these things. It's a fact. But you cannot have. Listen, if a state abdicates, you create a vacuum. And this is it, whether it's to do with the caste system, discrimination, whether it's to do, and when you abdicate, that vacuum will be filled. It will be filled by people who will come with their own agendas. But that's the point.
Now, let's move on to another current matter. Of course, I know your commission is also monitoring the implementation of the TRRC recommendations, the white paper, etc., and stuff other like that. Before we go to the current affairs, how's your impression, your office impression on that?
Yes, you're right. The National Human Rights Commission was given the mandate to monitor the implementation of the recommendations, and the government white paper has accepted that. But not only that, we also have some implementation role in the process, and we have done that. So what have we done? We set up what we call a multi-stakeholders committee. This committee meets quarterly. And in that committee comprises of Ministry of Justice, anybody that has been mentioned in that TRRC to do X, Y, Z. Because it's important, because if we are monitoring, we must know what have you done with this recommendation. Why have you not done it? And we are doing that. And just last month, 2 months ago, we produced the first report to the National Assembly on the status of the government's implementation. Remember, there are 17 thematic areas during that, and each one has recommendation. Regarding prosecution, what should the government do? April 10 and 11, religious freedoms, rights of children and women. This, it is sad though that we need to intensify our efforts, because I think we're missing out on the never again. And that was why I told you it's very important. Because a lot of the things that we're talking about today, it's mentioned there.
Covered in the never again.
It is mentioned there. And if you look at the Gambia, we have become so polarized. Issues of hate speech. You just scan the media, you will be shocked. The number of the nature of bigotry that is there. And the TRRC actually addresses that. Even religious freedoms. It talks about a period when, for example, the Supreme Islamic Council arrogated so much power to themselves, where even the khutbahs of imams were monitored, where even graveyards, sometimes you will not be buried if they feel that Mr. Fati is a friend of a kafir like me. Sorry, I'm just putting it like that.
Okay.
No, but all those things, on a more serious note. So, and then it came up with recommendations that, you know, let's separate the state
from religion.
And let the president not even be a part of that. You know, among many other things. So, but if you look at the way we are going, I give you an example why we were set up, that we must follow due process. Things like enforced disappearance were common. Extrajudicial killings, detention without trial. All these things used to happen. So we are monitoring, and we just handed our report. And yes, this was the first year of implementation. There is much that the government needs to do. For example, in the area of prosecution, they have not done much, but they told us, and we are monitoring. We actually even requested them to give us more information. This is what we do, because they're going to set up a prosecution unit. How far are they? The issue of a hybrid court. So on all these things, it needs to be done. And also even the issue of the reparation bill. You mentioned that. We talked about the TRRC banning from public office. If you remember, the TRRC also had list of names of people who should be. We even monitoring.
Government said that has taken place.
Yes, but like as we monitor, we discovered that certain people
are still serving.
Yes, but we then we wrote and we found out. But the government also is now coming with a bill called the TRRC banning from public office bill, so that they can regularize, and these people will be officially.
So anybody who's been adversely mentioned, would not have to work until it's cleared.
There is the peace and reconciliation bill that is out there. So we are doing all this, monitoring to make sure that when we say that the never again, it means something. Because, you know, it's human nature. We have a way of forgetting where we're coming from.
Exactly.
You know,
Let's come to the point. You recently, a few days ago, actually really made a statement on the current, political tension that has came about in the last few days, when the president addressed political meetings where he seemed to be speaking very tough. His critics said he is not preaching peace, he's intimidating the people, interfering in police and judicial matters, usurping powers that didn't belong to him, and he also, by saying that certain people in the opposition or certain opposition groups are national threat to national security. So many other things that he'll go after people to arrest them, even if magistrates or judges have given them bail. All those things were, they raised concerns. Your office raised concerns, and I can see even you yourself not spared, from criticisms,
and from both sides,
from all sides. So, what was how did your press release talk about it? You expressed concern that at the moment those statements really can undermine democratic gains we've made.
I start by saying that when the NHRC speaks, it's not only Emmanuel speaking.
Yes, I know.
Your consensus is the office speaking with one voice. But this is not the first time we're raising concerns. If you remember during the election period, after these parties signed the Janjambure Peace Accord, there was a period in which the head of state talked about gassing people and then the lawyer of the opposition also talked about destroying Barrow if it's not. And we came in and said, guys, please don't do that. You've signed this. That day I got praises from some quarters. In the morning, in the evening, some people abused me. I got abused from both sides, NPP. So we are used to that. But we will continue doing our job. You see, the thing is, the head of state is no ordinary man. Hussein Dabo is also no ordinary person. These people are influencers. And the head of state is even at a higher echelon. Because when he speaks, everybody listens. International community listens. His supporters listen. So it is our job to flag. When the head of states, yes, we know politicians will be excited. It's normal. it is, and sometimes they respond to criticism.
Yes.
And I'm sure sometimes it cuts them at a very bad day when they read something.
Yeah.
But that notwithstanding, you see, it's important. It's not who is saying it. It's not what is said. It's who is saying it. This is very important because they have a following. So when we follow, we scan the environment. In fact, I told you that there was a particular instance when even His Excellency made statements about a particular activist.
I know.
Yes, and we wrote to him, and to be honest with you, he was magnanimous enough to say that, well, yes, he is really a conciliatory person. It's not, he doesn't want to threaten, and we are very happy that he responded.
Yeah.
So we will continue to do that. But okay, coming back to this issue, we saw that statement was made, one statement passed, then the next statement came, and here it was no longer borderline. There is excitement, you let it go. They all get excited.
Exactly. Yeah.
But when we read,
when you see a pattern,
and we see things like people who are arrested and granted bail by a court, by the process, we will go and arrest you. To us, this is red flag because we had a country where after this gathering, I will be taken by the NIA. You know that. Did you not run away to Senegal?
To London first.
Yes. So I don't want to run away again. You don't want to run again. So our job is to make sure that we don't allow any politician. Any politician. It's not just Mr. Barrow. But yes, he is the head of state. So that will happen. He will also have to be magnanimous to understand. As the chairman is also, a lot of times I get flack. So you look at it, you ignore, let it pass. But as a head of state, even though you are excited and you are angry because of certain things, and there are so many nasty things that are said, I have to thank Kerr. I think I was watching one time, somebody abused the mother of Barrow. And I think she said, don't use my platform. So, okay, the point I'm making is this. One, leaders should be careful. Don't say certain things that will undermine our democratic process and rule of law. But even if your followers, and this is important, we know you cannot control all of them, especially with social media. Everybody is now, but disassociate yourself from that statement because we are listening to you. And that happens. We have had people from right across, even opposition, from, who said very nasty things, even on your Gis show about us. It has happened before, but we were magnanimous enough to understand. Okay, you should not say those things. But even when they got into trouble, we were the first to ring the office of the IGP and go there and say he has his fundamental rights and freedom. Protected, So we are not in the business of selling ice cream. Today people will be happy. Tomorrow will not be angry. We'll do it with tact. I tell you, there is a lot of things that we do, which is where we actually maybe write to the office of the
you don't
OP.
even come.
We don't come because we're also a state institution.
Yes,
but there are times when we also have to come out. I just want people to understand that there is a lot of work that we do underneath. Oh, a lot of negotiations. A lot of we do that. If you ask Memben Kering when he was closed, in closed door meetings with the Minister of Justice and Information, we made those radio stations to be open, but it was closed door. We removed and we spoke to the minister. And at the end of the day, he said, okay. They all beat their chest. Don't do this. And then, but we do that because it's also our job to bring back a culture of peace. We must live in unity.
Absolutely.
Regardless of our religion, our tribes, our regions, we have to keep Gambia. 2.5 million. What's wrong with us?
Absolutely.
Today, everybody is at each other's throat.
Too small a population.
That is why the state cannot be quiet. When it comes to hate speech is dangerous.
I know.
And it's rearing its ugly head. The state should come out and stop it.
Fatou, let's come in here. The National Human Rights, and I think even the Bar Association, came with a similar statement that the president's pronouncements really are worrying because, like he said, it's the president talking. But the president's advisor said, or his lieutenant said, he's been provoked. He has long been lenient. They've been insulting him right, left, and center. Now he has to come out with some, in his own words, the country will change. It's everybody now will have to know that it's a changed country. But in the manner he said he's going to go about it, for example, asking the IGP to pick up anybody who, who flouted the law, or even to go after somebody who's been granted bail by magistrates. That has come under criticisms, and they said the president shouldn't mention that kind of things. How do you see that?
deeply, deeply concerning for the head of state to say or boast that he will instruct the Inspector General of Police to rearrest individuals granted bail by court. He actually said judges. Yeah. See, the work and the independence of the judiciary, of judicial officers, is so sacrosanct in any democracy. That is why the judiciary is a separate, and that's why even on their vehicle, it's not GD, it's judiciary.
It's judiciary.
This is just to make sure that they are properly detached from the traditional government setting.
Exactly.
Because their work ought to be completely independent, impartial, and that people have faith, trust, and confidence in the administration and delivery of justice. Why are those statements deeply concerning and worrying? Because we had a culture in this country under Yahya Jammeh where people were prosecuted maliciously, politically motivated prosecution, trumped up charges, where at the end of those prosecutions, magistrates or judges decided that no offenses were committed and freed them. And immediately they walked out. They were arrested by the police or by the NIA. That happened in this country. Somebody like Senior Counsel Antuman Gay was actually arrested at the High Court complex. Magistrates and judges were sacked. From magistrates, High Court judges, Court of Appeal judges, and Supreme Court judges.
And in prison.
And in prison. You know, so
where you have a judge himself in prison.
You know, so that happened all the time. But we also had a culture in this country where the office of the president will write to the police to instruct that certain individuals must not be granted bail, must not be given bail. So if you understand all of that, and also see the current trends, over the last couple of years, it has become almost routine for the police to invite individuals for questioning and subsequently detaining them. Oftentimes, these are individuals who had expressed views that are critical of this administration. Some of these individuals are opposition politicians, but some are independent, fair-minded Gambians expressing liberal, democratic, independent views and opinions. So it has become almost a practice for that to happen. And recently, a court granted certain individuals bail. No sooner had that happened, they were rearrested.
Yes, I remind you of the case of the drug.
The drug matter. Drugs are. When I was a magistrate in Banjul, at one point, 95% of my cases. One time, actually, the chairman of the narcotics tribunal in Banjul. And the only time I actually sentenced somebody to like a very hefty, long custodial was people involved in heroin, because I thought this is detrimental to our society. The knock-on consequential effects on society, the damaging effects. But so we are all aware of that. But at the same time, we have a system. We have a judicial system where if you're unhappy with something, that's why we have a hierarchy in the structures. If you're not happy with the magistrate's decision, you appeal to the High Court. If you're not happy with the High Court, you go to the Court of Appeal. If you're still aggrieved, you go to the Supreme Court. And if you're not even happy with the Supreme Court, although that is exalted, you may even go to the you may even go to the ECOWAS Court. I'm not saying to to exercise certain rights or to seek certain declarations on the enforcement of your rights. So if you look at the recent trends, and if you look at our recent history, the TRRC dedicated a theme called Justice Sector Institutions. Justice Ibrahima Jaite and His Worship Omar Jabang actually testified before the TRR on behalf of the judiciary and presented a position paper. People like Honorable Justice Mam Yasin C were almost forced out, that at some point the state even withdrew her oddly and stuff like that. In 2015, when in the case of I think Sadio Fofana and Lantombong and the others, when their sentence was commuted from death to life imprisonment, immediately Jammeh asked the chief Chauhan, the Pakistani Chief Justice, persona non grata, to leave the jurisdiction immediately. And Justice Jibujane and Justice Raymond Sok were sacked from the Supreme Court. The current Attorney General Dawda Jallow, as a magistrate in Banjul, delivered a decision at some point. And I heard he was removed. The Pakistani judge had to intervene. He had to put his foot down. They said, you cannot do this. The same Justice Ibrahima Jaite, who testified at TRRC, he was a magistrate in Banjul. I was a magistrate in, magistrate in Brikama. I was a magistrate in Banjul at the time. He delivered, actually, all that he did was to strike out a matter for lack of territorial jurisdiction. He said, this matter is supposed to go to Bundung, not Brikama, so struck it out. All you can do is, now that we go and file it in Bundung. I think the decision was made on a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. On a Friday evening, the police went to his residence, invited him. I visited him at the police major crime in Banjul. He was sacked for doing that. Omar Jabang, who also testified on behalf of the judiciary, actually succeeded, well, in some of my files. But the same thing in the case, I think, Veronique Carroll, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe perhaps another case. And the submission of Noki, he granted it. I would have done the same thing. Because I remember in that particular case, a police officer prosecuting that matter came into my office and told me, Your Worship, there's no evidence in this matter. This person hasn't done anything, but the NIA disturbing us and the state saying that we must prosecute. We went through that in this country. The reason why I'm giving you a bit of historical, empirical background and context is that the judiciary itself admitted that under Jammeh, that we had mercenary judges, that under Jammeh, that in a way there was some level of capitulation
and
interference. Okay? Certain people went to prison who should never, ever have gone to prison. So we had a TRRC and we dedicated a theme on this issue to make sure that this never happens again. So when you look at all of that, this didn't happen 20 years ago. This happened very recently. And the people are granted bail and subsequently rearrested. So when you look at all of that in its entirety, then you become alarmed that the head of state at a political rally would say that he would instruct the police to arrest individuals that had been granted bail. But remember, bail is not automatic. An application had to be made, and a magistrate or a judge would determine that matter on the merits. Sometimes certain people, somebody may steal a bottle of water. You may remand that person in custody for his own safety. Sometimes. Because sometimes you may believe that if we let this person out now, there's going to be a mob lynch thing. And but sometimes also you look at it and think this person may likely commit another offense or may likely flee or other things. But a magistrate or judge must be satisfied to either admit that person bail or refuse. So remember that is a process leading up to that point. So what the president said is that he's going to use power to override that judicial process.
Powers he doesn't have.
Powers that he doesn't have.
Under the Constitution.
Under the Constitution. But even suppose he doesn't, but even suppose he had those powers. Even suppose he had those powers. Even prosecution, which is vested
in the Director of Public Prosecutions, who is answerable to the Attorney General.
Yeah.
But even that doesn't mean that the Attorney General or the Director of Public Prosecutions must prosecute maliciously. You only prosecute one where there is adequate and sufficient evidence that can be sustained in court. But even where you've satisfied that threshold, there is an additional requirement: public interest. There are times when there is evidence, but prosecution will go against public interest, and therefore you may not want to prosecute. So, but what I'm saying is that the statutory requirements are that even prosecution is not automatic. Certain requirements and conditions must be fulfilled before you can embark on that exercise. So if the president says that I'm going to instruct the IGP to rearrest individuals who have been subject to a judicial process where a court has determined that that person is fit to be granted bail, then that means the president is directly assaulting the principle of the rule of law. And the rule of law is the cornerstone of any civilized culture and democracy.
Let's talk about what his lieutenant said. They said the president is provoked, pushed to the wall was how one of his aides described it. He said, okay, where were Emmanuel, Joof and the Human Rights Commission when, well, allegedly UDP people were insulting the president's parents or the president's? Why didn't you talk about that? They said there have been many cases of opposition politicians insulting the head of state himself and people around him, and nobody talked about that. But now that the president is kind of talking about, expressing his own opinion, everybody is going helter skelter. No, he shouldn't do this. They said that's not fair with the president. What do you make of it? Yes, they even directed criticisms against him.
No, criticisms were directed. You see, the thing is, as I told you, we have always maintained our stance regarding everybody. That's what I gave you the example of when even the leader of the opposition was not happy with us. And because we do not encourage. And we've been very clear about this. And to the point that even if it is not coming from the leader, if your supporters are saying this, disassociate yourself from them.
Exactly.
We have been, so the person who sent this audio is either not been following our work. So we have always done that. So, and nobody should, there are also laws. You cannot get up there and insult the president. Why? President's mother. There are laws, and if you flout the laws, then you will be dealt with. But the issue is, which I started by saying that, but as leaders, the president is not an ordinary person.
That's another thing.
This is very important. When the president speaks, and that was why someone are saying, why are we? Yeah, because it's not only Lamin Cham. Who cares? If you said, okay, we will care because you don't understand.
Lamin Cham, he doesn't have any.
But this is, but this
when
is
the president says.
When the president speaks, we listen. When the president, who is the head of the executive, makes such statements, which he has said, we are worried. And why are we worried? Because there is a context.
Exactly.
If Lawyer Dabo says the same thing, and sometimes some members of the UDP say some things which are quite, I'm not, maybe they're not speaking on behalf of the UDP, but some of them are living abroad. When they try to say they set the country on fire, you cannot say that.
No.
So
it will be the duty of the UDP to disassociate themselves.
But this is the point I'm making. And sometimes, and I'm saying this because we scan, sometimes they don't do it enough. I've heard when there was a religious issue came in there, their campaign manager, UDP, finally came up with a statement dissociating themselves
from.
But this is because if you all hold certain positions, you are an influencer. We cannot run. You cannot make talk.
You cannot make even a personal decision because it will reflect on the institutional organization.
And all of them should be very careful. Should be very careful. And I will say this, I don't care how many insults I get.
I know
I'm just saying
you're doing your job.
Coming back to the issue, the head of state, that statement, all the embassies are looking, development partners are looking. Emmanuel, did you hear what the head of state has said? I'm just saying, we are also concerned. We've had closed doors with the You probably saw us 2-3 months ago. We have closed doors with the president. You are not there. We keep away all you people because you cause trouble. So that we can tell him what we think.
You can
and
tell
it's a very honest. Sometimes it's not also maybe 100% happy.
Yeah.
He also puts his position.
Yeah.
And we
and of
understand.
Course, politics,
We understand, but a head of state, they do make mistakes. Sometimes they make gaps.
Yeah.
But
In fact,
because once you say that,
yes,
then you are emboldening maybe the IDP.
Exactly.
Or others.
And like Fatou said, especially if it looks similar to what was here before, you will hear Jammeh saying, journalists are illegitimate source of Africa or the world, he calls them. I will take you 6 feet deep. I will take you to my hotel. And they happen.
Yeah, and they happen.
They happen.
Because he practiced verbally.
Yes, verbally. And you know, the seriousness is that if it was some minister or some permanent secretary or somebody
even there,
who had a, you know, let's say who had a loose tongue or, you know, and said, then you could say, oh, okay, well, this one is getting too much. But when the head of state said something, it qualifies.
Can I just comment?
It leaves no doubt now that this is going to be...
Can I just comment? Yeah. Like the old cliche, power comes with responsibility.
Yeah.
But why do, in the West, athletes who are highly paid, you know, their private lives, you go to a hotel, do your own private stuff, it becomes public, and Nike wants to disassociate themselves from you.
Yeah.
Your club would even impose a fine.
Yes, obviously.
Because
you are
influenced, you are a role model, you are paid a lot of money.
Exactly.
So you are now in a way public property.
Exactly.
You cannot completely divorce your private life from your public. So here, political leaders, especially the president, because he's carrying the mandate. Of the
he has the greater burden.
He has the greater burden. So he must at all times exercise restraint.
Yeah.
We all get insulted.
Yeah.
Like he said.
Oh, okay.
But you cannot turn around and say because so and so person insulted me, their rights are infringed, we're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
You cannot do that. If he doesn't, then let him resign from his role.
Yeah.
Go and do something else. But as long as he's there, half of the time the criticisms are unfair.
Yeah. Of course.
But unfortunately, that is the nature of the job. So political leaders, the president must not only exercise restraint, but must at all times really sound judgment. Because when you go at a political rally and say things like, we all know the history of this country, say things like, I will now ask the IGP to arrest people or to re-arrest people and stuff like that. That statement was made this week, I believe. Then Alaji Bora, who is on bail, went and his bail was revoked
and been held incommunicado.
Madi Jabata yesterday, had it not because he's not feeling well,
would have gone.
He would have gone. And actually he resisted, otherwise he would have gone. Then you look at Ibrahim Madiba, then you look at Madi Jabata again last year, you look at the young TikToker or journalist Mankamang recently, you look at preferral for the individuals in 2022 and even this year.
Sabali.
Even the girl, the I don't know,
Fatou
Jan or something, on all those individuals. Then you begin to see a trend.
Yeah.
Because when individuals appeared before the TRRC, these are the same stuff.
So what should the police do in this case? I mean, I saw online police coming under criticism that you are doing the bidding of the president.
Yeah.
When the president
it's looking like
when
that.
the president said this, you invite people for questioning. I mean, are you acting now? I mean, on the instruction of the president, even though they are illegal? So the Inspector General came on the criticism.
The police have to be
what should be the role of the police
independent in their work.
You said it in your press.
Yeah. Okay. What we say, because usually the police also feel that a lot of people are unfair on their part.
Yes.
And I think Mr. Fatou will also agree with me that the police play a very crucial and key role in the security of this country. Yeah, they have been given the powers to protect life
and
properties. And it's there. That is why they have been given these powers of arrest, detention, investigating, because this is their power. That notwithstanding, the police must also exercise those powers in accordance with the law. And I think this is the bottom line.
And not through the influence of minister or president. I mean, that's the way they, but often the police will also, they fear their jobs, they fear...
The bottom line, and I'm saying this because even I myself, I've come under criticism before saying that when something happened to the police, then I just took out our correspondence relating. You remember last May when the PIU officer was actually, there was a shooting. Yeah. This is not the first shooting.
In URR, I think.
No, not in URR. What is the name? Near Nungukebe. Nungukebe.
Yes.
And and then some armed robbers shot. So we really feel that the police themselves are not properly equipped and tooled to do their job.
Yes.
And we are one of the first institutions to say that, listen, the conditions of service of these officers
should improve.
Proper training. So we know that. But I think, because I am only dwelling on this because usually the criticism is that we are the reason why there is crime. People no. People say there is human rights, so there is crime. Of course, the two don't go together.
Yeah.
We are also telling that police apprehend criminals.
Yeah.
What we are saying them, all with due process. Is that wrong to say that?
No.
There is a process.
There's a process.
There is a due process.
Yeah.
Issues of arresting, how you arrest people, allow their lawyers to come in, detain them, investigate them. After a particular period, if you cannot grant them police bail, take them to the court. Let the court decide. It's important to do this. You see, the thing is, we don't learn. A lot of people, I remember during our activism days, those who used to laugh at us, Mr. Human Rights.
Yeah.
I was a magistrate, then I left the magistracy, and then I did a lot of work here. We formed the Coalition of Human Rights. And it was cynical statement, Mr. Human Rights, and they will laugh. Those, I will tell you that 80% of them ended up. And I, myself, was one of those who were filing cases for them on Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch.
Look at that.
You mentioned a very important point, that here is just talking about power corrupts and absolute power corrupts. In this country, in 2013-14, you know who was in jail? Minister of Justice was in jail.
Yes.
Solicitor General was in jail. The head of the police, IGP Jesus, was in jail. The Attorney General, Minister,
a former army,
the Chief Justice.
The Chief Justice
a
was
former
in jail.
commander of the army.
Yeah, because what you have. Finally, what happened was, Jammeh had now arrogated all the powers to himself. He could even imprison the Chief Justice. Okay, what we are saying is this. It's not about
even the commander of the army, chief of defense staff. We are all put in prison.
The head of the civil service, In fact, people laughed at the period and said there is actually a whole government in the prison. They could run the government.
Exactly, yes.
So, but the point, why are we saying all this? You see, it is not directed to His Excellency President.
No.
Or Hussein Udabo. Politicians themselves, they get carried away.
Absolutely.
The issue of rule of law is here for all of us. We can all fall foul of this. There is reason why. And just our context and our history shows you that it is important. These things are not just there for the sake of being there.
No.
It's to make sure that you are protected, I am protected.
And
it's a merry-go-round.
Because they have been a history.
Tomorrow can be down there.
There have been a history. So
there can be a history. And quickly, sorry, I must add this. That was why when we do advisory notes, we did one on the issue of the death penalty, which is also where you have people saying yes and no. And I listen, I've always said this. I said, listen, when we say we should think of abolishing the death penalty, we're not saying that people should go free, people who kill. That's not what we say.
No.
We are saying that the dangers. Mr. Fatou knows that. You must know. You know about the Guildford 4 and the Birmingham 6. When police officers even forged signatures. But those were lucky because in England they had abolished the death penalty. But they were 10 years after they were released. I heard Langtombo actually one time on the radio talking about that he's against the death penalty. He missed. And he said he was praying. So what we are saying is that it is also what is used sometimes by politicians to get rid of their opponents. It has happened. I'm just saying, and quickly, just to show you how we are as a society, when the shooting happened, just recently,
the police,
people started saying we should give the police arms. And I told them, be very careful. If you do that, because I chair the Farababanta. In fact, when I chaired, people were saying, remove all those guns from the police. But I'm saying all this because that's why you need leadership. That's why you need leadership.
Yeah.
The police, the work are important. I'm sure Mr. Fatou agrees with me. Because this is always the point that they say that we are anti-police. Nobody's anti-police. The work that the police they do, we cannot pay them. They're like medical doctors and teachers. But at the end of the day, what we're saying is let us do things, follow due process. And the context, which he had given a long lecture, the context where we came from, we should always be very vigilant. We cannot allow what has happened before. I don't want Lamin Jam to run away again. I don't want Mr. Fatou to go back to England. And I'm getting old. I want to stay in our country. Let us fix this country.
Absolutely.
We need to fix it.
So what we need today, let's ask. So many commentators online said, okay, politics can get hot.
Yes.
We all know that politicians get excited, they get hot, and they can say things, out of proportion when they are on the political platform. They can get heated. But at the end of the day, they need to exercise caution and tolerance, especially those, somebody tells me that when people go into election, the person who is defeated, okay, people will say, oh, everybody will pity that person. But the person they should pity is actually the winner. Because he carries the biggest burden now. He has to separate himself now from partisan politics to be a statesman. And if you look at President Barrow's, his biggest strength has been his tolerance. Because easily people compare, they don't even compare with anyone. They just look at what happened on the Jammeh, how Jammeh is and his personality, the two personalities. They just look at that. And automatically everybody knows that this guy is a saint when the other one is a devil. So his strength has been his tolerance, exemplary tolerance. But it looks like now he is, people said, he's been pushed to be a monster or a dictator. They are forcing him to be a dictator because they provoke him. But someone saying he's been pushed to the wall. So he's now coming back. But at the end of the day, the President of the Republic should always be guarded with what you said to avoid being interpreted, in many corners as somebody now who is willing now to go outside the Constitution to usurp powers, intended to suppress political opposition or suppress the media. I mean, he had also thrown some things at the media. He had made a personal attack on media. I mean, he said if there wasn't any democracy, certain institutions should not exist. I mean, the issue, and the Gambia Press Union had come to express such kind of things. These things happen on the Gambia. I mean, what's happening now is, I have said this on many occasions. There are 18 political groupings or so in this country, if you put independent and political groupings. Now, each time these people come out with a statement, these groups, 18 political groups, you must know that the first or second paragraph, they will criticize the government. No doubt about it. All right? Now, if there is, and the press cannot ignore them, you cannot suppress them. GDC cannot issue a press release. I put it down and said, oh, this is GDC. You have to be fair to everybody. Now, if there is nobody in the NPP available to take on all these criticisms that have coming up, there will be an imbalance in the coverage of opinions in the media. And that will not be the media's fault. It should be the people who need to clarify, who need to defend policy, who should come out and take advantage of the media to reply and set or clarify things to the people. But if you said, I'm not going, even now, I invited a senior government official, NPP to come here on this panel. He said, I'm going to the provinces. So, Peter Gomez said it on his radio, that if he wants to interview public officials, they say, write a letter to the permanent secretary. How many people are in the government payroll who are paid, given multi-million dollars cash? They will not find time to come and protect policies of the government. They will not do it. If they don't come here to make themselves available to journalists to talk and explain government policies, who will do it on their behalf? The opposition will always take the advantage. The opposition, you don't even need appointment. If I called Mama Kande said, I said, well, I want you to come today to comment on the president's statement, he will run and come. If I called, I just called the NPP senior official, I said, can you come to this? Today to talk about these things, to defend what the president said. He said, no, I'm going to the provinces. So there will be an imbalance in the media, and you blame the journalists when actually it's not the case. And nobody has ever denied NPP official airtime in this media or in other medias. No. They will just say, no, I don't want to. So you see, so it's very, whereas you look at GRTS. GRTS is supposed to be a public media. Every activity of Barrow is now taken live, broadcast live. Every activity. Whether it is opening of political bureau, whether it's inauguration, official or political, is broadcast live. And that's supposed to. And that's, can you imagine GRTS broadcasting Mama Candace rally live? Is it possible? Is that fair? And that's supposed to be public, belonging to everybody. There was a circular there that never again shall that radio such institution cover civic society or any other activities. Every broadcast, every activity of the president is covered live on GRTS. Not just even highlight, live. Can you imagine Mama Candace rally or Doi rally, GRTS live? It's not possible. So when you are talking about unfairness in the media, you have to look at every side. And this independent media has never closed its doors to. In fact, it makes the media interesting if you have divergent opinion, divergent people. That's what we like. But if you say you are not coming, or you say this media is opposition, so I'm not coming, the opposition will always come. The media must go on. And then you blame the media unfairly. So this is the situation that must come.
Now this is the,
no. I'm trying to clarify.
This is the media's.
That's our corner. Yeah. So I'm also fighting our corner.
Yes.
So this is the real situation that people must know is what exists. We have told them over and over. There are 18 political groups in this country. You have ministers. You have permanent secretaries. You have advisors. Make use of them. Let them come to the media and defend policies of the government, so that there will not be an imbalance. But they will not come. And the opposition will always do their job. They will criticize.
Keep on inviting them. I'm sure.
Even today I invite. I can show you a text.
No, I believe you.
Okay, that's right. He told me, sorry, I cannot come into the provinces. There are a few of them who do come, but the others come in. And then they will only come starting when things that are under them. If matters under their purview, directly under their ministry, come under criticism, then they will come and say. But overall, they cannot defend the government. So that's also there. That's another thing. So I think the president should really reflect and avoid fighting with the media. Because, I mean, what the president can do is to make sure he get his people to be ready to take on his political opponents and their opinions. Where there are clarifications needed, they come and duly and promptly clarify. But to say that, I mean, if had it been there, Democrats, this media cannot exist, or this media should not have this thing as has been alleged, I think that is uncalled for.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Judges.
Yeah.
When they make decisions, especially in matters that involve politics, are heavily criticized.
Exactly.
When the Supreme Court threw out the UDP presidential election petition.
Yes.
And other matters as well. People go on social media and insult.
Yes.
And say all sorts of stuff.
Even the Chief Justice.
Chief Justice and judges.
Because politicians are politicians.
But do they come out?
No,
and say now anybody who comes with it, you cannot.
The Chief Justice never came out to say.
The Chief Justice or the judges, they are human beings as well.
A very good example.
I'm sure when they're in bed at night,
it
takes them half hour to cool down before they go to sleep.
Exactly.
Because it's natural.
Yeah.
But because by virtue of their jobs,
yes,
you cannot come on social media, you cannot go on TV and say we will do this.
Yes.
Because you are restrained.
That is a clear-cut example of they've been provoked.
Yes.
All kind of things, they've been maligned.
Yeah.
But never had we.
People would even the most outlandish
language against
them. People will go to your family history,
publish their photographs on social media.
You know, exactly.
Never had
people probably even sort of like suggesting for people to attack their homes. Yes. You know,
I never had the Chief Justice
or any of those people, but because because you cannot do that.
Yeah, because he knows.
Because if you're not a judge,
yes, that's right.
And you are, if the Chief Justice were in Bansang as the Imam or whatever, that wouldn't happen, okay? Or some of these judges. But I'm telling you is, have you ever seen them react to the provocation? They don't, because you don't expect. And we're now taking it a much further. We're talking about the head of state. So if somebody insults my mother and my dad, I would be utterly angry and stuff like that, but as the head of state or as political leaders, when things like that happen, that is why all the time they say it comes with that heavy burden, because it's not only about the execution of your duties, but that you rise above the fray. People insult. If the president wants to exercise his muscle, then people will go to prison every single day. That is what Jammeh did.
Yeah.
Because that's what dictators and autocrats do.
Yeah.
In a democracy, in the UK, people, the newspapers will carry the Queen and call her the devil. The Prime Minister, remember the son carrying the most dangerous man in Britain. And stuff like that.
Or the Gordon Brown when he was Chancellor of the Exchequer. He took money from...
I remember Tony Blair going to Birmingham. I think this was in 2005 or so, and a woman confronted him on the streets and called him a liar.
Obvious. Let's come on.
Said you are no, but he wouldn't allow Mr. Blair to speak. You're like no, but you're lying. You're lying and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is, Tony Blair is not going to be particularly happy about that.
Yeah,
but you're the Prime Minister.
He's not going to send
you go before the people to seek a mandate. So upon securing that mandate, you cannot now say that you've secured the mandate, but you're devoid of criticism.
Yeah.
Some criticisms are going to be constructive. Some are going to be unfair. Some are going to be personal,
malicious.
Yeah. But that's why you are who you are.
Comes with the territory.
That's why he's the head of state. So as head of state and the others as well, they have to exercise that restraint.
Yeah.
Regardless of how provoked you are, you still cannot come out and declare war or declare an assault or threaten the very foundations of our democracy, because the rule of law is the pillar that holds any civilized society.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Emmanuel, I want your parting words now on what actually, like the position of the Human Rights Commission on these matters that you have captured in your press release.
Human rights is work in progress. We have made a lot of gains. We have a baseline, and this baseline is where we're coming from. A period of complete dictatorship. We must comment, Barrow has done well.
Tremendously well.
We have
in terms
great
of
strides.
Terms of tolerance.
But I think the worry is we cannot allow us to slide back. And these are the issues that we've been talking about. And it's so we need to be very mindful. As a Human Rights Commission, we will continue to monitor. We will continue to flag out these issues. We'll engage the presidency, members of the executive, political leaders as well. I am worried about this country in the sense that I have seen a trend, a lot of bigotry and hate speech. It's there. It's rearing its ugly head, where you have people attacking religious minorities. I'm not even talking about Christian Muslims. Intra.
Yeah.
I sit in my table. I have a petition from the Ahmadiyya. Yes. Yeah. I have. You have a religious leader saying that in other countries they even kill them.
Yeah.
I'm just. Let us be honest.
Yeah.
This is the country that we are currently living. Sunni against Shiites. And then of course against other religious minorities.
Caste system.
My worry, the caste system is there. My worry is that if political leaders don't take a position, you cannot be in any party, whether NPP or UDP or DOI, and you have a member of your executive or campaign manager casting aspersions on other religious minorities, whether Ahmadiyya or others, and you don't say, disassociate yourself from it. Yeah. And let us preach peace. Let us have unity.
Absolutely.
We cannot develop a country when the country is polarized.
Absolutely.
And I think this is my parting shot to everybody. We have a country we need to keep together. The TRC has shown us we are almost on the brink of the precipice. We almost went to a civil war.
Absolutely.
Jammeh created a lot of fear. Yeah. We should not don't allow that to happen.
Absolutely.
For your sake, for your children, and we should hold all political parties, all opinion leaders, all religious leaders to task. We will call them out. Thank you very much.
Fatou.
For me, again, the TRRC did a wonderful work. And the TRRC, part of the transitional justice process, was really a wonderful opportunity for us to reconstruct our country. Legislative reforms, security sector reform, build strong democratic institutions, but justice sector institutions. Because when you look at the barometers, abuse of rights, abuse of fundamental rights and freedoms are some of the telltale signs of where the state is becoming so mammoth that it begins to erode, to diminish those fundamental rights and freedoms. So those are some of the red flags. What is happening in this country at the moment with the invitations, detentions beyond the mandatory constitutionally prescribed 72 hours, blatant disregard for the supremacy of the Constitution in protecting fundamental rights and freedoms. So some of the things that we are seeing at the moment is completely at odds with what the TRRC sought to rectify.
Good.
So the task of implementing, last year around this time, I think shortly after this, myself and my colleague, we were actually as consultants at the National Human Rights Commission to train some CSOs about the implementation process of the TRRC. So there's a lot of work that they do that people don't even know about. But what I'm saying now is, this is a wonderful opportunity for government to implement, even apart from the judicial side, the accountability prosecutions and the hybrid, whatever, those are even higher. But simple stuff of making sure that the rule of law prevails, fundamental rights and freedoms prevail, and they're not court-held. We cannot limit rights. Normally the idea is that, no, you know what? If government is not happy, we restrict rights and whatever, and then we control the citizens. That is not the way. The more you expand, the more there is fundamental rights and freedoms and respect for human rights, the more you have people would make noise, but I think there is less crime. There is less bigotry because there is respect for oneself and others. And I think we are backsliding a little bit, if we are being honest. I think government has to reflect. Let's come back on the drawing board. Let's come back to the table. Implement the recommendation of the TRRC. A lot of money has been spent through various TJ processes and mechanisms. We cannot allow that to happen. We cannot, and the freedoms that we are enjoying today are not a gift. Solo Sandeng, Nogoinjai, Sukai, Dahaba, and others laid their lives. Some people left their families for the sake and pursued advocacy out of this jurisdiction. Exactly. The press that the president is now deriding played a significant role in galvanizing support, in mobilizing support to oust President Jammeh. Let us not lose track. Let's come back to the table. Let's implement the TRRC recommendations. Let us respect democratic principles and the rule of law. Respect individuals. People will say stuff. We will all disagree sometimes on certain issues. But it is a strength of good character and strong leadership to be able to absorb those things and not to react with anger.
There we go. Thank you very much, Lawyer Yablai Fati and Emmanuel Joof, Chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, for both of you for your sterling contributions to the current affairs topic on the brunch this week. The brunch will be back next week with a fresh topic. And I mean, gentlemen, you don't need invitations now. Even if you have things to highlight, just knock our door and you will have a slot on the brunch. Thank you very much all for watching, and see you just next week. Okay.
We live in a day and age where technology is creating a world without borders, filled with unlimited potential to improve the lives of the people around us. Innovarex Global Health ushers in a new way of leveling the playing field with increased access to quality healthcare services delivered at your doorstep. Our qualified professionals are equipped with state-of-the-art point-of-care testing technology to conduct tests such as kidney function, liver function, electrolyte tests, body composition, hemoglobin, A1C, and many more services with the highest efficiency in delivering results. The addition to our flagship Wellness on Wheels, more fondly known as WOW Delivery Service, brings the entire clinical experience full circle. IGH has remained committed to creating the future of healthcare delivery. Gone are the days of sending loved ones outside the country for basic medical services. Innovarex Global Health offers a new peace of mind and takes pride in delivering the quality of care we all deserve.
Islamic microfinance is becoming an increasingly popular mechanism for poverty alleviation, especially for developing countries around the world. This microfinance service adheres to the principles of Islam as a form of social responsibility. Yona Islamic Microfinance is the Islamic microfinance of choice in the Gambia, trustworthy and reliable. At Yona Islamic Microfinance, we provide savings products, current accounts, financing products in conformity with Islam. In addition, Yona Islamic Microfinance also offers local and international remittances, takaful fund, management of zakat, management of awqaf, trading and investment, and building of strategic partnerships to bring financial services to the doorstep of the poor with donor projects, madrasas, youth organizations, women groups, and farmer organizations. Make a choice with Yona Islamic Microfinance today. For more information on Yona Islamic Microfinance, call 377-2151 or 9832-151 or visit Yona head office at Tipa Garage, Bakote, or visit any Yona branch located countrywide near you.